All set.
Welcome to November 5th CRB meeting. We have CRB members here enough for a quorum, so we are opening the meeting. Would everyone who is not speaking please mute their mics to turn off sound in the background? We're getting some interference from somewhere. Thank you. Okay, so first order of business is to approve the October meeting minutes. So would someone make a motion to do that, please? Lori, and second from Cliff. Thank you. Any comments or questions about the October meeting minutes? Okay. We have a motion to approve. All in favor, raise your hand if you can, if you're visible, and I'll check in with each board member. Cynthia? Unmute, please.
Hi.
Yeah. Your vote on approving the minutes.
Oh, I did. I raised my hand. I approve.
Okay. Ruth?
I approve.
Atisha?
I abstained. I wasn't here.
Hey? Hey? You there?
She's showing up there, but I can't hear anything.
Mary?
My hand is up.
We can't see your video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Can
so
you see it
you're
now?
Nope.
no,
Just
can't.
see,
Oh, there.
yep, now we see your hand. Yep, now we
Thank
see you.
Okay.
Okay. And May, can you hear me? Let's put May down as abstaining. Okay. It appears we lost our person who we couldn't hear. And did we lose both of those community members? We
No.
do take board.
Just him. He said it showed that he left, that they left. I'm not
call
sure.
in. Okay, so call in user 4 is
That's,
still with us.
yeah, that's Ruth. So call in 4 is Ruth. 3 is May.
Right.
And 2 is Hatisha.
Right. So there are community members on the call. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Everybody's a board member or staff? Okay. Chairperson's report. Second district vacancy. We have not heard anything unless you have, Renette. As far as we know.
I was advised that they would not be making an appointment as of right now.
Okay. So it is CRB to recommend someone to the council since it's been way more than 60 days. So if anyone comes up with a candidate, there is no specified process, but I'd recommend if you have a good candidate, get in touch with me and Renee and see if we can find somebody good.
You changed my name, Peter?
Yeah.
I was just ready to say, who's Renee?
Who's Renee?
It's been a long
Hey,
week.
hey, Renee.
Hey, her name is Ray.
Ray. Renette is the name.
Just walk away, Renee. Okay. 2020 board terms. Again, we need to know. I'd like to check in by the December meeting. I would like to know for sure that everyone whose term is ending has contacted the person who appointed them, whether it's the mayor or councilor, and let them know whether, if your term is expiring, whether or not you want to serve another term. We have our committee established for administrator review. I've been working on a bunch of related stuff, so I will send out within the next few days to Lori, Ann, Cholmajok, Sharon Owens, and myself the evaluation form to talk over and try to work with the secretary, the receptionist at City Hall to get her to find dates that those two might be available. Any other questions or comments on those? Okay, I've also sent out a doodle to board members. Please, a couple of, I think about 3 or 4 people who are on the call did respond to that. Please check your email, respond to the doodle. We're going to try to have a special meeting the week of the 16th to review and make comments on the use of force policy and body-worn camera policy. Renette, it wasn't clear to me from looking at those documents. The use of force policy, I think it says draft for public comment. The body-worn camera policy doesn't say that. What is the status of those?
They are both drafts,
Okay.
to the best of my knowledge. So that is the reason for having a discussion about them. And we intend to, I was going to talk about it in my report, but we'll just say it right now. We intend to propose some changes that we have been making previously, the recommendations that we have made about certain aspects of the body worn camera and the use of force policy. So we will be reiterating those, sending a formal letter again related to those recommendations. And we just want to make sure that all the board members are clear. You should have received a copy of the policies by email and hopefully had the opportunity to review them prior to that special meeting. But I think it would be to our advantage to do that, and also to have Ryan appear at the time of that special meeting and just have a discussion about, some things. So I didn't want it to be at a time right after our monthly meeting. So that's why it's scheduled for the following week. So please do that doodle poll, because I think it would be to our advantage to do that. And we have to have the special meeting notice at least, I think, 24 to 48 hours beforehand. So the earlier we get the doodle poll done, the better, so that we can make the public aware that we intend to have this special meeting.
And public announcement consists of putting it on the City Hall calendar?
Yes,
Correct?
putting it on the City Hall calendar. I put it on the Facebook page, and we just have some sort of meeting announcement kind of thing. So,
Great, thank you.
and we'll have an agenda, just like we do now, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, because this will be a regular special CRB meeting, but it will be a full meeting. We need a quorum, and it'll be open to the public and so forth. It'll be conducted just like a regular meeting. Okay, Renette, you want to go ahead with the rest of the administrator's report?
sure. So, we had 5 new cases to come in the month of October. I would say that's probably our highest, I believe, since we have been out for COVID. I would like to say that the office is still closed. Well, the building is still closed unless you have an appointment. If you call the office to schedule an appointment, you can come in the building to meet with us. The telephone lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And people do utilize them on Saturdays and Sundays. So I'd like to state that, but the building is, I believe, physically going to be closed just as walk-in nature until December the 1st, is my understanding. With regard to cases, we will be reviewing 6 cases in executive session tonight. The monthly financial report, I think I forgot to attach it to you guys' email, so I'll send out another one, and you can have the financial report.
Yeah, everybody's been calling me begging.
But we are very good with regard to our budget. I would like to say, given the fact that the office has been closed, we will be placing an order for some office supplies, but we have utilized less paper. We have utilized, less water jugs, things of that nature, because we have not been in there, that kind of thing. But we are due to make a order. Cynthia, Roberto goes in the office every morning from 9 to noon. I go into the office on Wednesdays, and the phone is transferred to me after he leaves the physical office at about 1 o'clock. So the office is still open 24 hours a day since COVID. But yeah, that is how the office has been working. I put
Actually, I'm
inside.
sorry. I didn't really mean the office. That was the wrong choice of words. I really meant, do we know, or did you already say when they're gonna allow us to go back in the city hall to have our meetings there?
So we will be virtual until I think the Common Council becomes in person. So as long as they're doing their meetings virtually, then we will continue to do our meetings virtually. Is my gather, because they have more people than us. Well, they actually have the same number of us. So if they're gonna meet, in the Common Council chambers, then we can meet in the Common Council chambers. But so they're not, so we're not. So until that happens, that's kind of what we've been going, how the process has been working. I sent you a document for a virtual training related to training, accountability and transparency in law enforcement. It's going to be a virtual training on November the 12th. It is $89. I sent you the information and your ability to click on the link down there to get more information. They're going to be talking about transformation and reform, accountability in use of force investigations, keeping the public informed, a new dimension. Like that? Keeping the public informed is a new dimension. I like to mention that one. Building bridges, the way forward, building trust through accountability and transparency with community, auditors, and police. So I thought that would be a good opportunity to attend. It's $89 because we are a government agency. So again, it's still way under the training budget. So I wanted to know if you guys thought that would be a good idea for me to attend. And if we could entertain a motion to attend that training.
Dana, is that a
only
motion?
for you to attend, or any one of us that also want to attend?
Well, if we were to, typically whatever information I'm able to obtain from them, I can send to you in terms of some sort of PDF or whatever. If you would like to attend, based upon this, I think you would have to pay the $89 to attend. So that's.
So I can't get my $89 out of the budget.
I don't know if board can be covered or not. I have no idea. I don't think we've ever done that, right?
Yeah, we've never done that.
It's the first time for everything.
I will reach out to the council and ask the question.
Okay.
I know we've talked about, issues related to stipends, issues related to being able to pay at least the registration for, board members if they wanted to attend our national conference and things of that nature. We've put all those things, but there's nothing in the legislation currently that covers that. So I will ask the question. All right.
Okay, so we have a motion. We need a second. Seconds. Any further discussion of approving the $89 for Renee to attend? I'm sorry, I had to do that. For Renette to attend the ILEAA training. Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, Mary? Yes, your camera just came on.
It's my,
Everybody unmute so I can call on you, please. Cynthia?
wait a minute, Peter. What did you say just now?
Sorry, I thought I saw your hand up for a yes, Mary. Is that right?
I'm gonna keep my
You're mu-
my thing. 'Cause I have my kids in the background. They make a lot of noise. So I'm gonna keep my thing on mute.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, can you unmute and give us your vote approving the $89 or not?
Oh, that's fine, but I still want to know if any of the members can attend.
Right.
But if Renette attending, I have no problem with that. Or
Okay.
either Renette or Renee, or if they both go, well, no problem.
Okay, yeah, we're approving what's her name to go. Okay, Ruth,
I approve.
Atisha,
I approve.
who am I missing?
You're missing May, and I
May?
can't seem to figure out how to unmute her.
May apparently is muted. May, I don't know if you can put it in a chat, a vote, or
She's on a
Is any-
cell phone, so she most likely can't type it in the chat
okay,
because she called in.
okay. I'm not sure what to do. I'm worried about the cases when we get to those votes. This one, I think we're fine. Well, we can record May as abstaining. That seems the fair way to me to do it, to record a vote as for abstaining at the moment. Now let's think about if there's an alternative for the cases.
I'm gonna see if I can get her to just call back in.
Okay. We'll pause for just a minute while Renette's doing that.
All right, May is going to call back in, so we should see another caller pop in just a few moments.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it for my report. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I think that's it for my report.
Okay, committee reports. Our community outreach.
So we did a trunk or treat. Myself and Lori and the unicorn ventured out to Rich Street, and we did a trunk or treat. And I think that it was very good. I thought that it was a good idea, and I would like to plan for us to try to do that next year, and have some more board members to do it or something of that nature. But I appreciate Lori. She made all these nice little goodie bags. And then we took the leftovers home. We then shared some with another vendor out there. But I thought it was a good opportunity to be on another side of town. I think we were in the I want to say we would have been in the third Common Council district, I think, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, we were in another district, so that was good.
Is that West Side, Rich Street?
No, we weren't on the west side. It was right off of South Ave. Yeah, it still was the south side, but then in a different area. So we had never really done anything on Rich Street before. So I thought it was a good opportunity, and it was well attended.
We did a trunk or treat too. I didn't know that. We did one down in the valley. Well, my son is the one, and it was absolutely, it was fantastic. We had about 10 to 12 vehicles full of candy, probably close to 5 to 1,000 kids. It was fantastic.
Well, be sure next year, if you decide to do that, to let the CRB know. We'll be happy to do a nice little trunk out there for everybody.
Absolutely, I sure will, because it is his plan to continue to do that. He's the program director of fatherhood at the Southwest Community Center. Brooke Williams, yes, that's my son. And Lori,
Oh.
he said he met you, well, he saw you when they did the Men Unified Walk.
Oh yeah,
downtown.
that's right. I forgot. We did do that. The Black Men
Yep.
United Walk.
Yep.
We did that event. We had a table out there, and we assisted related to that. That was also in October. So yeah, so we had two events in two different districts in October. So I think that's a plus considering COVID's going on.
I just like to make a comment about Southwest Community Center. We went there to vote, and they got overwhelmed. A whole bunch of people showed up at once, and somebody let too many people inside. The two guys, I believe it was the two guys who were management at Southwest Community Center. I didn't know their name. They came down and they were great. They got people. They said, look, we got to help take care of you. You got to be outside. We got to get this whole line to move over there. And I just was really impressed. They did, whoever these guys were, they did a fantastic job. It was cool.
Awesome.
Hey, are you with us?
Yes.
Good. Glad to have you back. Okay, board development and training.
We had talked about having Bob Stewart to come again for training, and then time just kind of got away from us. So we can try to see if we can do that sometime in December. If Peter wants to send out another doodle poll, and I can reach out and see if December works a little bit better. Or did you guys want to, since it is coming up to people's terms going to be ending in December, do we want to wait and have that for next year, the beginning of January?
I would say you should shoot for January, because that'll start us off fresh.
I think that's a good idea.
I agree. I think we should wait until after the first of the year.
Anybody else have a comment about that?
I'm good with that. Lori's good with that.
Okay. All right, so I'll reach out to him for some January dates and we'll kind of go from there. And then the government relations meeting. We had that meeting. It was a rather it was a good meeting. We had the regular normal people there, ready to engage somewhat. And we have the next one rescheduled till November the 16th. So we'll look forward to having that, and hopefully all parties will be in a better mood that day, is what I'd like to say. So
Can we hear a little bit about that? Can we hear a little bit about what happened? I'm
going to make one comment, just one quick one. The title holder for most ridiculous comment at a committee meeting, formerly held by Steve Thompson, is now held by Kenton Buckner.
Oh.
So there was a question as to whether or not we had made any progress having these monthly meetings. Our attorney drafted a lovely letter in response to that. And I think that it will prove that by the participation and the strategies presented through the CRB and willing parties that we have made some progress. We still have a ways to go, but we are better than we have been if the CRB did not start initiating those meetings. So, hello, Dan. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Mr.
So,
Griddles has emerged from hibernation.
so we are still having discussions related to the legislation and the parts of the legislation that our hearing policies fall under, and the parts of the legislation that they may have felt that the CRB created on its own, which is not really the case. So we talked about that. We talked about starting our hearings again. And that we had not heard back from any of the officers that had been previously subpoenaed and had been previously invited. So then after that, I did reach out to their assigned counsel. And as of right now, I'm still waiting for some dates for which the officers are going to be available for hearings. We did discuss one of the cases in which the board voted on last month, and that was being forwarded over to another party. And there was a question as to whether or not we had the authority to do that. And we pointed out that per our legislation, we do have that authority. And there was a question as to whether or not we understood that that other authority was now the current employer of that particular person. And we were advised that we would have not known that had we not forwarded over it to the new agency, because we don't keep track of people's new employment statuses once they leave the department. So we discussed that. I think that's a good word to stop right there. But yeah, there was just a little bit of questions as to, the need to continue to have these monthly meetings, and what we had been accomplishing through these monthly meetings. And I believe that the CRB was able to provide that information in a timely manner, with detailed information as to what we had accomplished so far.
So they don't want to continue the meetings?
Somebody
I think
quite said that.
I wouldn't say it like that. I think that it's just wondering if they're necessary to have monthly and if it is creating real change for them. And I believe that it is, because I think that it keeps the CRB and the SPD relations on the forefront.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't give them an opportunity to forget about us. I'm not saying that they have in the past, but they have in the past. So I think that having the monthly meetings to continue to work out the kinks and to provide updates as to where we are, and receiving the number of cases that are still backlogged from 2017 and 2019. I think that it's important. I also think that it's imperative for the governor's order, in which they stated to, continue to build on the police community relations. So I think that it would definitely be seen as a win-win for all involved, so that we can, improve those relations and have proof through these monthly meetings and the changes, that the CRB might be able to shed some light on.
Absolutely. I hope you reiterated that to them.
Yes. Yes. And I applaud the board members that were there at the time that the comments were made. They were very professional, and we let our attorney do the talking. So it was very good on our part.
I really, really wanted to point out that in years, the SPD failed to comply with pretty much every single part of the statute that established the CRB. While for the last couple of years, the CRB has been complying with every part of it, except the ones that the police department makes impossible. And that these meetings have begun to make a change in that. The SPD has begun to comply with some of the requirements of the law. I didn't say that, but it's true.
You should have. You should have.
Well, we let our attorney do the talking, and he basically said it in a nice way and said that he would draft a letter that would point out the things that we had accomplished with these meetings. And it's always great to have that in written form, so that that can then be shared with the appropriate parties.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that the board members should be able to have a voice in that regard? I mean, should we be able to reiterate how we feel about, the relationship as far as the board and the police department is concerned? And I say that because, everybody on the board, right? I always reiterate that everybody on the board should be able to have a voice in that regard. So them understanding that we're trying to work with you, and I know that you're good with letting them know that. It's good for the attorney to speak, but hearing it from the board members as well, I think is a good thing as well. I'd most definitely like to attend one of those meetings, most definitely.
And I agree with that. The only thing that I would say is that based upon what I kind of was feeling at the time, it would have been a contentious moment that to me would have not been productive. And so it was better to not feed into it and to just let, the conversation kind of get guided by the attorney opposed to kind of engaging. I don't know what anybody else's perspective is, but that is kind of the reason why I believe that it was good that the board members that attended just paused and kind of, the attorney got a chance to speak about it, so that it didn't seem like a tit for tat and it wasn't emotionally driven response, and it was more strictly to the, the fact of the matter. But I think that, again, I agree that the voice, I'm not going to say that you can't say anything, but I do believe that there's other ways to handle it. And I think that in this sense, it was just going to pretty much become a back and forth. And I didn't feel that that was going to be productive.
When that energy is negative, I respect that. You real good with assessing that right there. So I respect it.
Yeah, I appreciate Cliff bringing that up. I think this is a valid topic for board discussion. I think that those of us who attend those meetings, the topic being, how do we relate to people in those meetings? How forthright should we be when we have a different opinion than is being expressed by, for example, the chief or the administration or the council? And should we defend ourselves? Should we do it in other ways? And I think that, those of us who are at that meeting should take into account how the board feels, and as well as how Renette feels, who has a very important role in those. So I think we should, do other people have comments on that? Lori? Unmute, Lori.
I was trying to find it.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's difficult when you're doing Zoom or WebEx type meetings. When we're all in person, we can nudge each other or give a look or, make a comment. You can't really do that on the computer. And it's so much easier for us to have those meetings in person. Because you can kind of judge how someone's feeling when you're in person, whether that person's going to just react or be calm. And it's hard to do that on the computer. That being said, I agree. And the one thing, Cliff, I want to remind you too, is that whenever Ryan sends a letter, we read it first. Renette sends it out to all of us to be critiqued. So at least we can be assured that we agree as a board with anything that Ryan is saying. But in addition, we should, if we've got things to say, we should say them. And I don't think anyone has a problem with that.
Dana, you were at that meeting. Any comments?
No, no.
Dana, you gotta unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
No, Dan, we got that. We're talking to Dana also.
There you go.
Yay. I was actually a little surprised that the chief went that direction. I really felt as though he was on the same page we were with how great these were and how much we were accomplishing. It really shocked me that he didn't feel the same way. It kind of made me wonder, wow, is this his real self? Or, which is why I was glad somebody else was talking, because it was not the time or place for sarcasm, and I'm not good at that. But
That's how I felt as well. So that's why I paused and said, like, really?
Yeah.
We go, okay. And then Ryan, I think, sensed that and was like, well, you know. So, yeah. Yep.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dan.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I you said I gotta unmute myself, and I thought I was unmuted, so.
Got it. Okay. Cynthia put a comment in the chat saying, I think it's good that the attorney does the talking. Okay, any other? Does anyone else want to say anything about this particular topic? Okay, let's move forward.
I would like to say that we did have a productive monthly meeting, the chief and I, after that meeting. I thought that we were able to have a good conversation. I asked him about the policies, and he said that, you know, we have the opportunity to provide feedback with regard to the body worn camera policy and use of force policy. I had previously asked about being involved in the CIT training, and he was going to see if I could, but since COVID, there has been no CIT training for anyone, so he had not had that opportunity. He did advise me that he was not willing to give us any more than what was already in the current legislation. So if I had mentioned before about in Arizona, they had allowed community groups and their kind of oversight agency to be involved in their officer involved shooting reviews. And that I thought that would go a ways with, you know, the community and with the CRB, you know, to be involved in that type of review. And so that type of question, he stated that he thought that would have to be something that was added into the legislation. It wasn't something that he would just agree to allow us to be a part of if it didn't say that in the legislation. And then we talked about the Right to Know Act, and I asked that he provide us with a copy of any training that he was going to give to the officers, and maybe we could sit in on the training that they were going to do related to the right to know. And he said that they had a committee and a timeline that they were going to be working on, and he would share that when he shared it with Counselor Majuk, or ask Counselor Majuk whether or not he should share it with us or something of that nature. So
Why is that up to him? What, I mean, we're supposed to have access to training materials, right?
right. And I had a conversation with him kind of about that as well, because I kind of said that, you know, I feel like the CRB gets treated as a member of the public. I feel that, you know, At the same time that you're making policy and training recommendations and revisions, the CRB should have a seat at the table so that then we're aware of the policy. He said that he didn't believe that that was how the legislation read to him. It says that we can make policy and training recommendations, but it did not say that we needed to be included in the drafting of them. So we can agree to disagree with regard to that. I did point out, so one of the comments that had been made in that lovely meeting that we were talking about was that when we were talking about these policies, we talked about how the CRB should be able to help with the drafting or, know about the draft before it gets sent out. And he was saying that, other organizations throughout the city they make recommendations as well. And so his comment was that to the fact that everybody's trying to tell the police department how to do their job. And so in our monthly meeting, I reiterated the fact that it's okay that everybody else has the ability to make comments related to the policy, but we are the only one with the legislation that says that we make policy and training recommendations. So therefore, we should not be lumped into the same group of other community members making policy and training recommendations. We should be seen differently because our legislation provides us with that authority. And so he kind of understood that that was true, but also still felt that that's the reason why they're giving us the opportunity to make a comment related to the body worn camera policy and related to the use of force, and that it's in draft form and that the CRB can make its recommendations now related to those policies. So again, I think that, it didn't make any sense to go back and forth on the topic. I said what I said. And I feel the way that I feel, and I feel that, the CRB has legislation and it says that we make policy and training recommendations. We review their policy and training, and therefore we should be given weight when we make those recommendations. So that's my opinion. And yeah. So
Thank you, Annette. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'd like to say one and give space if anyone else does at this point to that. So if the chief's position is we don't get anything unless it's in the legislation, then we should get what is in the legislation. I think it's time to make a very serious push for reconciliation process. We're required to do that. The department for years has refused to have anything to do with the reconciliation process, and they have to. So I think that needs to be demanded. I think we need to present it to the department, and we need to take it to the council, take it to whatever, start bringing it up at those meetings. This needs to happen. We're done with the department saying no. I'm sure there are other things in the legislation as well, but I think we should push that one. Cliff?
I think we should approach our legislatures on it, because they are the ones who, I believe, make determinations as far as that's concerned. Like Pamela Hunter and those of a higher authority who would take the time to we have to say, and we'll have Renette do the presentation on it, right? On why it's important for the review board to be able to have that input. I've always said that, okay, that we have to go to Albany in order to get the necessary changes that we need to be able to have teeth within the Citizen Review Board. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to overstep. I'm just saying that to hear that happen is disappointing because there was so much progress being made, and we understand that you think we're trying to tell the police department what to do. No, we're not trying to tell the police department what to do. We're trying to tell the police department to work with us as far as our recommendations are concerned. But I've always said that we need to go plead our case to the lawmakers in that regard. You know that like you just got finished saying, Renette. Other cities have done that and have gotten that action taken and in favor of their oversight committees. You know, in the other cities. So I think that we need to draft something or put something together to do a presentation on why it's important, because the city is saying the review board needs to carry more weight in that regard. And we're not, every board member can verify that we're not trying to overstep our boundaries, right? We're asking for you to cooperate with us in that regard. Just like our administrator said, it's a difference of opinion with, as far as that's concerned, but we should, we should be taken serious. And in order for the community to take us serious, and in order for us to make the difference that we need to make, that should be something that we should look into. I don't know how you feel about that, Renette, but I think that's something that we should consider.
Well, I would say that currently, our legislation comes from the council. So we are creatures under the council. So we have to, reach out to the common council related to those particular changes, which is where we fall under. Again, I don't mind speaking, to Assemblywoman Hunter, and I don't mind speaking to anyone else for that matter to, express the need for us to be, seen and taken in a more, vigilant light, and to be respected, for doing the work. I don't have a problem with that, but I do think that it's imperative that we reach out to our local common councilors and, reach out to them, because that's the legislation that created the CRB. And so we invite them to all of these meetings. Councilor Majoka attended one since I think he's been the public safety chair. We've had them attend in the past, but these are the type of things that they need to be, there to hear, what's going on. But I mean, the only thing you can do is invite them to a meeting, and we go with the majority of the people whose time is available at that particular time. And so we have to kind of move with that. But I think that that's something that, again, has to be addressed with the legislation. And we have to go back to the council and have the council to feel that the CRB needs to have more power. I mean, the community needs to support the CRB and, nudge your common councilor about, getting the CRB more power and trying to find a way to hold the police department accountable for not, taking the CRB seriously, or not taking their policy and training recommendations and making the appropriate changes. I mean, if not, then it does get seen as these other groups that make policy and training recommendations have more authority than the CRB. I mean, but we have a legislation.
That's true.
But again, we can only operate under what we are operating under. And I agree that we have to demand that be adhered to.
Thank you. I wanted to say one thing, but does anybody else have comments about this? Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to take my typical wet blanket approach here. Make sure that if we do anything of that nature, that we do it as a board, and that it is discussed and thoroughly vetted before the board, because it's been my experience over the years, if you go to a legislative body and ask for legislation, sometimes they give it to you, but it's not the legislation you want. So rather than take a chance on taking a step forward, let's be more proactive and try to take a step, or instead of ending up taking a step backwards, let's be a little more proactive and unified and take a step forward. That's what I meant to say.
Thank you. what I wanted to say is that I agree with what Renette said. The council is our governing body. I don't know that state legislators would actually have an impact. I know there are state laws that affect us, but it's not clear to me that that's the way to go, and I think we'd need to consider that very carefully. But I do think that there may be other things. The first one that occurs to me that they're still not doing anything about is reconciliation. It seems to me that is a demand that we should start to push, and I think these meetings with the chief are the place to push it. If he's going to take the position that he doesn't have to do anything unless it's in the law, then he does have to do what is in the law. So they got to do that. I mean, I'm just putting that forward. There might be other pieces that are being ignored, but I think we've covered most of them in one way or another.
Yeah, we did not, we suggested a process with regard to conciliation with the previous chief and tried to get that rocking and rolling. And then with the current chief, we have not, crossed that bridge with him or brought it up to him because there were so many other things that needed to be worked out with the day-to-day processes and things of that nature, that to me, starting a whole new process and, things of that nature and getting away of the focus of what was the core stuff that needed to be done in terms of getting the cases over to us, telling us what you're sending us, providing us with the body worn camera footage, providing us with recorded interviews from the police officers. There were so many other things that were of, particular grave concern, getting caught up with the backlog of cases that they had, those were the key things. And I agree with you that we need to then, start bringing these other things to the forefront. But we had so many other things that were more priority so we could continue to do the work.
Right. I agree with you completely. That's what we needed to be doing up until now.
That was the time.
But now, what's next? The chief is saying we're not making progress. The chief is saying he's not going to do anything unless the law requires him to do it. Well, the law requires him to do this. I mean, I'm open to anybody here disagreeing with that, but I think it's time to push hard on that one because they continue to ignore parts of the law and they're telling us to stay out of their business. This is our business.
And I would say just another part of it is that the letter that we received that was part of the executive order from the police department basically said they were going to follow the legislation. And that was to not make a final decision on a case until after receiving our recommendations. But that's what you were already required to do. So we didn't get anything more from that letter than what we were due in the first place. So I just wanted to point that out, that we have not, and the day-to-day processes that were in shambles, should not have ever been in shambles. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get what you're saying, Peter, and on the next agenda, I will put that on there. But I do, I just want to make mention of that's why we didn't push a new process, was because we had to get the old, I don't want to say the old processes, but you know what I mean? We had to get those things that affected our day-to-day case review that were a top priority, and conciliation kind of was not a top priority at the time.
Absolutely agree. Renette, could you say the word about the task force that's required by the governor and what's happening with that?
So the governor required a task force, and he has. I wish I knew how to share my screen. But they sent out a resource that said the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. Resources and Guide for Public Officials and Citizens, and it's dated August 2020. And so in that collaborative, there are several different parts. And one of the parts has to do with citizen oversight and other external accountability. So I have been asked by President Hudson, along with some other community members, to be a part of this collaborative and talk about the citizen oversight piece of it and provide a report related to it. We have a meeting coming up in November this month. I can't remember the exact date, but it's on my calendar. We have a meeting coming up in which we are then going to, meet with the other parties. It's actually on November 17th. We're going to meet with the other parties and discuss it. And there's members from Skinny Atlas that's on there and another member. And once I go to this meeting, I'll be able to provide more information. But as of right now, I can send you guys, I thought I sent you a copy of the, it would have been back in August, but I thought I sent you a copy of the, if not, then I'll send it to you again so that you have a copy of it. And that is what we'll be working on.
This is the governor's order?
It was it's kind of like a, it's a PDF document. It's not really an order. It's kind of like a, it is in a sense, but it's more or less a large booklet with information already in it, basically breaking down these different parts of what it is, and then allowing us the opportunity to then provide some input, since that's what we do.
And essentially, the governor ordered all municipalities in the state to start a process to, I think it was reimagine your police departments by April or something. That you got to do that or we're cutting you off.
Yeah, so it does have to do with funding. It kind of looks like this. It has to do with funding, and they have a timeline for which things are supposed to be in place. And so if our collaborative approach is not in place by April, then it does affect the funding that we're going to receive from the state. And so it is a big incentive for us to do what needs to be done in order for us to obtain the funding that the city, and the county needs. The members of it are city and county people, all together on this collaborative. The police department has a collaborative part as well. They have the use of force policy and the body worn camera policy in another part of it. And I'll gather more information, and the more I know, the better I can provide to you guys. But yep, I got the report. I've started reading it. It's about 117 pages long. And so I'm just focusing on the CRP portion of it.
Thank you.
And before I submit a report or anything of that nature, you guys will see the copy of the report, get a chance to review it and all of that kind of stuff. So
we should be putting, I'm sorry.
So that has been on the brain. Also, the Attorney General's office, as you know, is currently still investigating the Syracuse Police Department. And we are also having to provide them with case reports from 2017 to present, 2013. 2014, somewhere around in there. So Roberto has been scanning in all the files from the file cabinet so that we can provide it to the Attorney General's office via flash drive. So that is, and the deadline for that is the end of this month. So that is what we've been working on and has taken up a lot of time to make sure that everything is getting scanned in. So that we can provide it to the Attorney General's office. We were just made aware last month that our deadline was November the 31st or 30th.
To get all that documentation to them?
To get all that documentation to them. The city has known about it for quite some time. And we were just advised last month what our deadline was. So Roberto has been getting it done. So
could we include on our regular agendas for the coming month in the administrator's report an update on that task force? I'm assuming that, I mean, it's not confidential, right? It's something that you could talk about at board meetings?
I don't know. I will gain some more clarification coming up. I did want I did let everybody know that we were advised that we were on it. And that but as far as I'll find out some more clarification. And I will, again, it's called the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. And it's resources and guide for public officials and citizens. And it's dated August 2020.
Thank you. I think we're about to move to executive session unless anybody has anything else we need to deal with. And it's 6:33, not too bad. Okay, could I have a motion to move to executive session to discuss cases, please? Anna makes the motion. Somebody second, please. Lori seconds it. Okay, we are all in favor? Any opposed? Moving to executive session.
All right, I'm stopping the recording now.